Open Line. Call now to get in the queue. 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's your host, Brian Callahan.
Good morning and happy Friday and welcome to Open Line. Brian Callahan with you along with the lovely and talented Beth Fagan today. Producing the program in the absence of David Williams. He's getting an early start on his weekend. Lucky dog. And Beth will be more than happy and capable to take your calls, get you in the queue, on the air. And the phone numbers to do that in the St. John's metro area, 709-273-5211. Or long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM. That's 8626. And our email address, of course, openline at VOCM.com, of which, once again, have a ton of them, reading them. I'm responding as best I can in the moment. Just a few things on the plate this week, but trust me, we're taking it all in, especially all the comments on the Churchill MOU and those sorts of things, and the tariffs. I'm heeding them all, reading them all. And I'll pass on as much as I can of them, during the show when there's a chance to do so. When it's appropriate and relevant and that sort of thing, slip this in here and there. But of course, if you have time to call and expand on said emails, that's always helpful too. So shaping up to be another picture-perfect day here in Metro and for most of the province, really. Still relatively warm. Looking for the weekend coming too, but it's coming. The fall, that is. Just look at the projected temps really next week. It's a bit of a fall off for sure, excuse the pun. So once again, let's see, love it while we got it because it'll be gone before you know it. And on that note, the Blue Jays, getting blown out this time of year, 13-2 no less, at home. Especially when you're desperate for wins, is a real kick in the Ernie Clements, if you know what I mean. And the Jays fans, they can be harsh, but sometimes relatively justified. And Boo Birds were out last night when it hit 8-0, as were the sarcastic cheers when Woods Richardson, I think it was, got a strikeout in the midst of it, when it was, I think, 10-0. So, but the booing of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., whoa. After yet another ground out. That was pretty sobering for him. Bit of a smirk, sobering. And the announcers, they were beside themselves. The silence from the broadcast booth spoke volumes, so to speak. Again, who would have thunk it? The $500 million man. So the Jays are now 3.5 games back of the third and final wild card spot, which is held by the Cleveland Indians, of course. So the plot will thicken, hopefully. Depending on what happens this weekend when Seattle comes to town. But the plot will hopefully thicken next week when the Jays actually travel to Cleveland for a midweek series, given that they're just that's who they're chasing ultimately. So we'll see where they stand after this, after they emerge from this weekend series with Seattle. And that'll go a long way in determining how important those games are next week. And just FYI, tonight's game, by the way, as far as TV goes, is an Apple TV game. I'm sure Brian Medora, I know he loves those games. Just wonder how many people do you get the temporary subscriptions or even, full-time subscription just to see those games with Apple? And I know there's preseason NFL on the go. I flicked over to the Pats and the Browns a few times last night. That's, I think, the final warm-up game for both teams, preseason games. But honestly, with the Jays and Royals on, and the Dodgers and Braves, and the Yankees and Astros, all those games, they have meaning now. So the choice was pretty easy for me. And how about Chris Sale? Shuts out the mighty Dodgers, and Yamamoto 1-0. Complete game shutout against the Dodgers. Apparently, Chris Sale, the ace, apparently learned of the death of a friend before the game, and he spoke about the motivation after. But the Braves, they sweep the Dodgers. And the Astros, they take a series from the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. Oh, and great to see the Newfoundland Regiment, back on the ice. Held an open practice for fans, I think, yesterday at the Jack Byrne. So they're hitting the road this weekend in the province. Great opportunity, right? Some preseason games, spread it around. And they'll be hosting the OHL Saginaw Spirit. So they're in Gander tonight for an exhibition game, and then Grand Falls, Windsor tomorrow night, and I think Corner Brook Monday, I believe. So great opportunity, for people in other parts of the province to see the province's team. If they can't, if you can't get into town for a game, not a lot of people always can. So, a bit of a travel, but so for those outside the actual metro area, it's great. It's just great to see the regiment doing that, spreading around. So safe travels, absolutely, on the roads. And look, I don't know if you've seen the videos. You hear that there was flooding and a mudslide and that sort of thing. It's way beyond that in Nepal, on the Tibet border and Nepal. While, we're enjoying this beautiful, settled weather here of late, people on the border over there, they are in a state of absolute grief and shock, as are we, or anyone who's been watching any of these videos, watching nature take its devastating course. This glacial slab that just came loose without any notice, of course, and destroyed and buried an entire valley, It just swept it all away, and now it's buried under one big sandbox. The pictures are amazing. Bustling with people in small villages, and you can see there are people running, and the construction workers, like they're on a massive dam there, and other sites are running like ants, from the flood of rock and ice and water and mud as it bore down on them. Incredibly hard to see and believe. So confirmed death toll now, I think, at over 500, but still an estimated 1,500 still missing, including, from what I understand, about 30 Canadians. And, there are serious concerns still that another glacial slide could be coming, all unsettled around there now. So, and look, the recovery effort really appears nothing short of, I hate to say it, futile when you look at, what the valley is buried in and that sort of thing. So, and so, look, quick mention, of course, it's big news. The Quebec election writ dropped yesterday, and under normal circumstances, we probably wouldn't care all that much. That then the vote, of course, is on October the 5th, but these are different times. So there's lots of attention being paid to the tariff war, of course, in this election. Not so much right now regarding Churchill Falls. It's going to be a part of it. And I heard Premier Frechette saying yesterday her biggest opponent in this election isn't the other parties in the election, but President Trump and the tariff war. And by all accounts, it's now a dead heat in the election. Anything could happen at this point with the vote starting off right now. It's only the first real day of campaigning. I saw good numbers, solid numbers, consistently across the board saying that about 1 in 2 Quebec voters remains undecided. So of course, Frechette's CAQ party, they certainly closed the gap over just a few weeks. And now it's a dead heat, really. Again, closed the gap between the parties, just about everything to do with the current state of affairs, of course, relations with the U.S., and then you have a big announcement this week, of the 6 new icebreakers to be built with Carney by her side. And yes, the signing of the MOU, the new MOU, the MOU 2, whatever you want to call it, where, yes, Quebec gets $6.5 billion compared to our $3.5 billion from the feds. Leave that there. As mentioned, given that the new deal is 3/4 of the way to the finish line, apparently, I believe I heard Hydro CEO Jennifer Williams say, like 3/4 of the down the football field, if you will. We'll see. One thing's for sure, as I have mentioned before, never will we have paid so much attention to an election in another province. So to see how much debate there is about the Churchill Falls deal along the way, hopefully lots, could possibly lead to more insight as to how Frechette and Quebecers and the leaders of that province, feel about it, what they see in it, what they know about it that maybe hasn't already been out there. So that perspective could be interesting, and it could inform, some of our movement here in this province, whether it's those who oppose it or support it. And, of course, on that note, there is a protest planned for September 14th, the first day that the debate is supposed to begin in the House of Assembly. So, anyway, once again, Trump, U.S., direct impact on our politics and economy. I'd like to remove all the politics, if we could, from it. And I'd suggest the PQ saw this coming, of course, saying early on that, a sovereignty referendum, which Quebecers clearly have no real appetite for right now, they wouldn't hold when the PQ says that, while Trump is president. That's not new. They've said that recently. And that, despite initial reports, they wouldn't ditch despite initial reports, they wouldn't ditch the new MOU. Not without giving it a good once-over anyway. Initially, with all kinds of reports that they're going to throw it out and scrap it if they got elected. But they've since clarified that, of course, not without giving it a good once-over to assess the benefits and et cetera. And look, as for, oh my God, I was not. I was purposely going to just try to ignore it and hopefully just move on, because really, I will say it's a waste of time and effort. But whether it's Trump's renaming spree, whether it's the Gulf of Mexico or Lake Ontario, if you want to get into it, we can. You could see this coming as well. You wondered what kind of knee-jerk, emphasis on jerk, what kind of spontaneous reaction he'd have to Doug Ford's onslaught of insults and name-calling. And so I guess this is the best he could come up with on short notice, I guess. Going to rename Lake Ontario Lake America. And then his latest musings about renaming the Atlantic or Pacific Oceans, yada, 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 yada. So we've gone from retaliatory tariffs to retaliatory insults now. I'd much prefer he and others focused on ending a couple of major wars, but that's just me. And, leave the trade stuff to the side, dare I say, and leave it to the more level-headed members of his administration. I say that with all care and caution and control. And just spitballing here for a minute, I wonder who will travel here to represent the United States on 9/11. The 25th anniversary, of course. I know we've had good representation from the U.S. over the years since the horrific events of 2001. And, we've had ambassadors over the years, of course, but this is a big one. Would you want Trump to come, or J.D. Vance maybe? And have they even been invited, I wonder? And would they come, for fear of having to acknowledge how Canada has come to their aid over the years on different occasions, but specifically on that day and the days following, whether it was Gander, St. John's, Stephenville, Happy Valley, Goose Bay. For so many Americans, right? Maybe show a bit of gratitude, as so many regular Americans and travelers on that day have. And I had a couple of emails yesterday talking about the American tourists that have been here in St. John's and in Corner Brook, too, that were interviewed. A lot of apologizing for the president. People saying they're sick of hearing that. They are Americans. That's their president, and they should own it. But I don't know. I mean, apology is best you can get, How do you apologize for what he's doing, I guess, when you had I can't say we had no idea. Anyway, okay, we're going to, Beth, let's take that short break. We got a couple of callers. We got room for you. And again, on this Free-for-All Friday, as we like to call it, any topic is open for discussion. I have a ton of emails, but if you got the time, give us a shout. You know the numbers, 273-5211, 1-888. 590 VOCM. And, I had something in my ear. But in any event, let's take that first break, Beth. Come back with our first caller and you. If the spirit so moves you on this Friday, anything you want to talk about right after the break. And let's get the show started on line number 1. What better place? And Keith, you're on the air.
Hey, how's it going?
Good morning. Good. How are you for Friday?
Not too bad. I'm just calling in with some information and updates. I've been working as a COVID advocate and awareness promoter for a few years now, and with back to school coming, it's also back to a lot of sharing of germs and viruses. Mm-hmm. So what I've been doing is preparing information packets for schools, districts, government officials, organizations, and everybody who might want to know about the current state of COVID and long COVID, not just here in Newfoundland, but basically all over the country and in the U.S.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not new to this, just so people know. You've organized campaigns before, for COVID awareness in the immediate aftermath, So where do you get most of your information, Keith? Just so people are aware of what's being disseminated.
It comes from the Canadian government. It comes from the U.S. government. And we have a collection of almost 500,000 peer-reviewed publications. And it's all in one convenient link, which I will be sharing. I can send to you guys as well.
Sure.
But it's basically a collection of information that has been gathered over the since COVID arrived, that we've been using to sort of guide our advocacy and awareness efforts, right? So
sure.
Right now in the U.S., cases are starting to take off again, and usually Canada's only a few weeks behind whatever trend the U.S. is showing, right? So right now in Newfoundland, for instance, we have estimated 1,300 cases, which, for August, that's a pretty high number of people who are infected with, a virus. Because compared to the flu, I mean, the numbers are like, essentially zero when it comes to that sort of illness for this time of year. Now, that wouldn't be a big deal if kids weren't all going to be heading back to high concentration, small areas to share, the air and, potentially infect each other, which we've seen in the past. So my goal is to send out information to school districts, teachers, government officials, anybody involved in the education process to just say, hey, here's some quick strategies you can use to decrease, the chance of infection. What we're trying to do is word it in a way that so people don't see it as, oh my God, here comes restrictions or whatever else, right? It's more of, doing things to prevent illness aren't restrictions. They're more like investments kind of in your in your health going forward, right? So wearing a mask isn't a restriction. It's a precaution. It's a way to avoid sickness, like wearing a helmet or seatbelt or whatever else.
Yeah, to reduce the risk, absolutely. 100%, 1,000% does.
Yeah, I mean, and it's little practical things, right? Like opening a window. So if you're a teacher and you get back to your school year starts and you have all these kids and, some are coughing or whatever, opening a window, right, is a practical solution to reducing the amount of virus that's in the air, using an air purifier, provide masks for kids, explain it to them. So one of the biggest goals of my advocacy over the years has been trying to convince public health units, governments, school districts to start implementing, comprehensive education, right? So if we educate people on the topic, it's a lot easier to get them to buy into doing things that are going to reduce the viral spread, right? So right now, long COVID is considered the number one chronic illness among children, according to Journal for American Medical Association, right? So that's alarming. And so some of the work that I've been doing with some great nonprofits in the U.S., the Public Health Action Network and the Air Support Project, is to start building that community of education where people feel comfortable talking about COVID and long COVID and post-COVID conditions because it's a very stigmatized, politicized issue, right? So whenever you bring up COVID, it's like people start to get the icks, and they don't really want to talk about it because it is a very psychologically, it's a traumatizing thing that happened to the whole world, but unfortunately still happening. And if we don't talk about it, then we don't use the skills and the strategies that we have to limit the damage that it does, right? And also teachers. So the reason why I'm focusing on education first, and usually every year I go in the pattern of, talking to educators and then move on to healthcare, is because teachers and healthcare workers are 1 and 2 in terms of risk of developing long COVID. So there's a study out of New Zealand that showed, teachers, because of the concentration of, people in such small spaces, they get infected a lot. And, since we know that the damage or the risk of long COVID is compounding, so with each infection, your risk of long COVID increases, right? So if teachers keep getting infected, it's obvious, like healthcare workers, which, we saw a report come out of the UK that 1 in 4 reported having long COVID. So if teachers are, sort of on par with that, they need to know, right? And they need to know the strategies, or just be reminded, that, wearing a mask or opening a window or using an air purifier, these are good things. They're, they're not, it doesn't say, it's not a political stance, to protect yourself sort of thing, right? So that's some of the work that I've been doing. And I'm going to be sending out a lot of information over the next months. And, it's going to be try to flood the zone with strategies and reassurance that if people take precautions or, use strategies to protect themselves or the students, because what it comes down to is, it saves everybody money and it saves everybody trouble if less people are sick, right? For districts and, schools, if their teachers are sick less, it costs them less. If kids are sick less, then parents have to miss less work, and so on and so forth. So, like I say, these are not restrictions or mandates or whatever. If you use a mask or air purifiers, open windows, stay home when you're sick if you can. If kids can't, stay home because some parents just can't do it, right? Because of work and things like that.
Absolutely.
Send them in a mask. Right. But it has to be, we have to pair it with the education piece and the communication piece and break down that stigma because, if a kid wears a mask to school, they shouldn't feel, like, oh, I'm going to, get ridiculed or bullied or whatever, if it's explained at the start of the year sort of thing, like, hey, if one of our friends has to wear a mask, it's so, they might not be feeling well and they just don't want to get us sick, and vice versa.
Keith, that's
right?
that's certainly a good point to make. However, as someone who just had a kid go right up through school and during COVID and all the rest of it, that's great in theory, but kids are kids, and the bullying, information doesn't always work at that level. I know what you're saying. I mean, obviously it's important.
Oh, yeah. No,
but it's
you're
so
not going to get
hard for
involved,
kids
right?
to all of a sudden start wearing masks, and I get it.
Yeah.
The other thing about it is,
I'm
too...
a teacher by trade. So, so I'm a teacher by trade.
So you can appreciate.
I'm familiar with this. So my previous work in advocacy was with mental health, right? So I got lots of celebrities, Jack Black, and all these folks to spread the word about mental health. So then I said, okay, how can I utilize those, these connections, the strategies I've been using for mental health? Because again, that was a highly stigmatized, still is, topic, right? And you're not going to get through to everyone, but I mean, if we start teaching kids and we start teaching teachers and we start teaching everybody that it's okay, to talk about being ill, and there's no shame, there's no reason, and obviously you're still going to get kids who are going to, get bullied if they wore a mask. But if we give them practical answers to these, everyday questions, like, I don't want to get you sick. Do you want to be sick? Then it might dry up a lot easier, right? But so these are the sorts of strategies and things that I'm going to be promoting and sharing with school districts and everybody, and with the hope that we have less sick kids this year and less sick teachers and less sick people in general. Yep.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the stats are undeniable. The cases, some cases of different types of COVID are rising in basically all 50 states in the U.S., and there's evidence the same thing, as you said, is gradually happening in Canada. The good news, of course, is that, they're not seeing the severity. Obviously, after the initial attack of this virus, it for whatever reason, obviously, maybe there's the susceptibility or the immunity to it, not full immunity, but like anything, once you have one type of say a flu or whatever it might be, the second dose may not be as serious as the first. Once your body at least wasn't shocked into it, like it was for all of us with COVID, right? For anyone that got the virus, but
I mean, it's the acute phase has fizzled from the the death count from the acute phase has definitely decreased. There's no doubt about that. Vaccines and infections have helped to sort of dull that sword. However, it's that long COVID being the number one chronic childhood illness, which means that it's long COVID is when you have symptoms last 3 or more months or pop up 3 months after getting infected, right? So that's the big problem, because it's delayed damage, right? So you don't think, hey, my COVID infection caused whatever's going on with my liver or my kidneys or whatever else, right? So
and those connections should be made by a doctor or for somebody who can absolutely.
Definitely, but that's the problem. It's that education piece with long COVID. It's just not, it's just not there yet. If you look at our public health units, it's just not a highly publicized thing, right? I mean, if you go Google right now, Newfoundland public health, or wherever in Canada, see how much information they've put out on long COVID. It's disastrously, inadequate, right? So that's the sort of thing that we're trying to share, is that, and even if, COVID wasn't a thing, I mean, not getting sick with the flu or the cold or what we have, the measles coming back into popularity, these sort of things, I mean, avoid it all. I mean, being sick is not a good thing, regardless of what virus it is. But definitely COVID. I mean, COVID it's a slow burn now, right? It's like you said, the acute phase death count has definitely decreased, but we're seeing a lot of people that are having lasting impacts. It goes on for months, some for years, some it's permanent, right? So we want our kids to avoid that. We want our teachers to avoid it, and the best way to do that is to educate people, talk about it, break the stigma, and share as much information as you can.
Yeah, it's interesting, human nature, right? I mean, we all know that masking helped. To stem the cases and to stem the spread of the virus, but like with anything, we never thought we'd just return back to normal during COVID. No way. But here we are, and the masking has become more, casual and not as serious anymore, despite what we all just went through. And it's not like you're going to see everybody over at Walmart or Sobeys with masks on again. I mean, certain people have certain, susceptibilities and pre-existing and serious, previous lung issues, as opposed to what they picked up through COVID, or, as you said, the effects of long COVID. I got a tickle and a thing that I never had before COVID. I'll be perfectly honest, and I don't dwell on it, but I know for a fact there's a couple of things that I've never had before that I still have from that time. So, you can, knowing your own body, you can link certain things to certain periods of time as well.
Oh, definitely. Like I say, I mean, it's my focus right now is on the kids and the schools and things like that, because their communication, kids, I ask my son 1,000 times if he's feeling sick, and he'll say no. It doesn't matter if he's on fire. He's going to say, no, I'm fine. I'm going outside. We all know we've done that, right? Something wrong with your leg? Nah, it's fine. It's a compound fracture. But, I totally agree. Lots of people have underlying conditions. COVID is like jet fuel on a fire, put it that way. It accentuates, it accelerates, and it helps the inadequacies and the weaknesses that we have in our body. It exploits them. It really makes them just burst onto the scene. We just don't want to see that, right? So we're just going to try to educate people, give them the knowledge to make the decision. It took us 60 years to get the smoking rates down to 10-15%. We can't take 60 years to do that. I mean, I probably won't be around in 60 years at 100 and something. I'm trying to do it now.
And just one other small thing before I go. As far as the opening the windows in schools and humidifiers, as past experience, kids just went up through. It's not always practical in some of these schools. I know that there were efforts to keep windows open in school last year, the final year of high school last year, and they were froze. There were days that you just couldn't do it, right? So you're limited in that way. Yeah, that's where the air purifiers come in, right? So if you can't open windows, I mean, I used to teach in Fort McMurray, deep north, right? We couldn't open windows. We actually couldn't at all. Yeah, they didn't even have handles on some of them. But a quick air purifier in a room, I mean, again, even if there's no COVID, it's still going to clean the air. I mean, clean air is delicious to breathe. Oh, boy. And you appreciate it more when you live in Newfoundland and Labrador and you travel all the parts of the world, I'll tell you. Oh, my goodness, yes. We got it good. Oh, we do. Keith, look, I appreciate this. No problem at all. The awareness is the big thing. Education, of course, but putting it out there and talking about it is so valuable. Seems such a simple thing, but just talking about it, top of mind, keeping it in the consciousness and the awareness, it's a huge thing with, back to school just around the corner. So I appreciate this today. All right. Thanks. Take care. Thanks a lot for all your work, too. Take care. Bye. Yep. Keith Muse there. All right. Let's take our second break in the morning. And, we got a couple of lines open, and we're looking for you on this Friday free-for-all, whatever you got on your mind. I got a few emails here about tinted windows today. A couple, actually, separate ones. There was one there initially, but now somebody else on it, too. So could be just a coincidence, but if you want to discuss tinted windows and the issues they cause and the enforcement or lack thereof, that's another topic we can throw on the fire. Let's take that break, Beth, and we'll be right back.
This is VOCM Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And welcome back to the program. Someone asked me earlier today whether or not I saw the news on the new Marine Atlantic ferry. Somebody in the business, of course, maybe a trucker, maybe not. But yes, Marine Atlantic did accept delivery, so to speak, of the new charter vessel, the Ile Rouge. And of course, accepting it just means it's now in our hands, so to speak. But it's going to make its way across the Atlantic. And we know we've had some issues before with ports and getting it into ship shape, so to speak, and the training and everything that has to go on. So the next phase, it'll make its way across the Atlantic and prepare to, once in North Sydney, it'll undergo the preparations and the employee training and familiarization activities before entering service. They say later this fall. I know earlier in the year they were hoping that it could be somewhere in the mix, but I believe it's going to replace ultimately some of the capacity lost with the Leif Erikson, and trying to keep track of which ferries are in operation and which ones we got and all the new names. Anyway, we can get into that if you like. Just a brief mention, because somebody asked me if I'd seen it and why I hadn't mentioned it. And there are a dozen of those kinds of stories out there where I might not mention them because I don't have time. But if I don't, and you're wondering why, you can either call and talk about it yourself or flick me a note and I'll get right on it. Let's go to line number one. Johnny, you're on the air.
Yes, hang on a second. I turned down my radio.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm in a new car. If you can hear me, I'm just going to keep talking the way I am.
Yeah, sure. Go for it. Yep. It sounds
okay.
Good. Yep.
I'm the guy that I emailed yesterday after hearing that about Colonette or Markland, the gravel road out there.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to let them know that if they can find somewhere to rent a grader, I have over 30,000 hours in one, and I'll volunteer my time to come out and fix it. I live in Sunnyside.
There you go. That's a nice offer.
That's all I can say. It's a hard machine to find to be able to rent, but if someone will rent it and they can get a water truck, I work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and I'm only 3 days into my days off. If they can get a grader and a water truck, I will come out and fix their road.
Nice. I'm just, yeah.
That's all I can say.
And nothing to ask in return or anything like that. Just a goodwill gesture. I mean, you never know what people are going to offer.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't want anything. I'll burn my own gas to come from Sunnyside, and I'll give it 3 12-hour days, and or a day like the dark, I'll have that road fixed for them.
Yeah,
plain and simple. Because I drove it like 5 years ago, and it's horrible.
So you know it firsthand. That helps.
Well, yeah, and being a grader operator myself and seeing the mess that's made with the windrows on the sides of the road when that material belongs in the middle and stuff like that, I can fix it. You know, it might not be easy, but I'm pretty sure that in 3 12-hour days with a water truck working with me, if there's no rain, I can get it fixed.
Yeah, geez. I don't know. It just strikes me, wow, I wish I had that kind of time. I mean, that's great for you to offer. And did you say you got full experience in operating, of course? Who did you work with?
I think I got over 30,000 hours. I started running one in Edmonton with Sherway Construction in 2006. And then I spent, 18 years in McMurray, where probably 14 of them were in integrator, and I run one in Ontario now. I've got lots of time at it, and I'm sure that anybody knows me, Johnny Penny from Sunnyside, knows I'm not lying.
No.
If they're listening, they can vouch for me.
Right?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm tired of driving on all these roads myself and stuff like that. And I know how bad that is. I know how much it's been called in about. And if they can get the machine, I will come and volunteer my time, and I'll fix it.
When you say 14 in Ontario, you mean 14 on, 14 off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're back and forth, are you, all the time?
Yes, all the time. Yes, unfortunately.
And how do you get back and forth all the time? Are you flying, driving, or what are you doing?
Oh no, I fly.
Yeah, just wondering.
Yeah, I wouldn't be driving.
And certainly not the grader, hey.
No, definitely not. Not much of a suspension in that. No.
Yeah, get that on the Marine Atlantic Ferry. Yeah. Well, look, we'll certainly pass you and put you in touch. I mean, we've got the contacts here, and they listen anyway. Jumpins, what was his name? What the gentleman's name yesterday who called about Markland? I know this, but
I know I can't remember either. I was listening, and I was like, I feel bad for them because the road is atrocious. It's awful.
Yeah, no, it is. And as I said, we heard him, our caller yesterday, explain, the state of it and the uncertainty of when, he praised, of course, Transportation Minister Petton for the communication on it. But again, it seems to have stalled again. And he's talking about watching the grader just go over his part to get to a section of Placentia from the Colonette. So
yeah,
that could be pretty frustrating.
I know. I heard it. Yeah, I heard it. I was like, no, I sent an email. I wasn't in the email. Someone responded for me to call in. I wasn't going to. I figured, why not?
Yep. Well, but it would be great to see them be able to take you up on it. I just don't know how, where you'd get the grader and who would actually add you up for it. As you said, you're not pay your own gas for that.
No, I'd pay my own gas to come out and run it. I don't care about doing that. Like I said, there's only something for me to do on my days off. Keep me off the beer.
Yep. Oh no! Wait, now we can't have that.
I'm only joking. Oh yeah.
I know. But it's interesting. Obviously, there might be some stipulations though about someone not employed with the Department of Highways, Department of Transportation going and doing a road like that. I'm sure it might not be either legal or feasible or covered insurance and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you'd probably have to be an employee, but who knows?
No, I know all that stuff as well. I know that it will be hard to pull off. But if the Department of Highways doesn't have the resources and doesn't have the time, these people need the road fixed.
Yep.
At the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yep.
Right? They're beating their vehicles up and stuff like that. I mean, there's no need of it.
Yeah, and how to get their attention? Just go and do it without even asking permission, and then.
Well, that's what I do if I own one myself.
Yeah. And then watch the reaction come in, because you know that people will support you.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd even get a decent job out here when someone saw what I did with the road.
That's right too, right? Could use it on, put it on your resume.
Yeah,
That's
for
if
sure.
that's if you want a job. That's if you want to work here. I mean, like I said, you got the 14 in Ontario. And what are you doing up there exactly? Like, what are you at right now when you go back?
I work in a gold mine.
Oh, very good. Yeah, that's where the money is these days.
No, it's not really. Yeah, for the people who own it.
Yeah, I'm talking about investors as opposed to the workers.
Oh, yeah. That's what they don't pay us much.
No.
Free
Yeah.
flights.
Yeah, no, gold is through the roof. All right, well, listen, Johnny, we know that. We got your offer, and we'll see what happens. Maybe you just take it upon yourself and just do it, and then see where the chips fall. see where the chips fall. But once again...
Got to get the machine first.
Yes,
get
that's
the
right,
machine,
too.
and I'll be there the next day.
That's right. Yeah, okay, well, listen, it's a standing offer, and maybe we'll hear from the boys out there on whether or not they want to take you up on it, and whether or not anyone can prevent you from doing it, because, again... it might be good just to do it and see where the chips fall. And what would they say, right? You shouldn't have done that. Well, we could have waited for the red tape or the actual town to get out there, but or the employees.
I'm not worried about that. I'll just go do it. Well, at least you get them out there to look at the roads. Doesn't seem like anyone goes out and looks at it.
Well,
so maybe if I'm out there, you'll get some attention to it.
That's primarily it. It would draw attention to the story, right? Maybe even rename the road. We'll get.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll ask for Trump's advice on that one. Johnny, thanks a lot for this. Appreciate the offer.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, take care, man.
Okay.
All right. Take care. All right, there's a good offer. You never know what's going to be offered for assistance on this program. Runs the gamut, doesn't it, Beth? All right, let's take our next break. Come back with a little bit of good news after the break. Absolutely, it's time for some good news, and let's welcome Marody. Marody's on line, isn't he? Yes, Marody's on line one. Marody Adeboyega, you're on the air.
Oh, hello. Thank you so much for having me, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks for returning to the program after our chat before you left for Stockholm, Sweden. And did you think you were gonna take it all?
I did not think I was going to take it all. That's even why I was on the program before. I was trying to get the People's Choice Award, trying to get what I could get, but I won the whole thing. I brought Canada home the gold.
You did indeed, and I love it. I love just hearing you say it. Okay, so let's get into this. You, in a nutshell, from what I understand, this was robotics, and you've managed to find and based on previous technology, and science, but you've actually created robotics that can decipher basically the difference between the plastics and the things that are harming our environment and species, so that it can bypass the species and just pick up the garbage. Is that it in a most layman's of terms?
It is. That is it in the most simple terms. But there's also another thing. The
Yeah.
AI can decipher the plastics, but by using a smart magnetic biocompatible material that I'm able to automatically my material cannot pick up anything that is not plastic. So it's not about a matter of deciphering that. It's just I physically cannot harm the wildlife around the robot.
And that is fascinating. So tell me a little bit about how this was all received actually to you, like your experience there, and the way the people reacted to your work and from where you're from.
So to get there at all, I had to go to the Canada-wide Science Fair, and they liked my work there. But I was lucky enough to be selected as there was 3 people that were chosen to possibly be the representative for Canada. I wrote a really quick research paper, and I was chosen. I truly did not expect to be chosen, but when I got to travel to Sweden. I got to meet all types of people from many other countries. Each country chose the best project they could to represent their country. And it was just a wonderful experience. I had to do 3 different interviews to present my project. I showed them some videos. They seemed impressed, but they didn't seem that impressed, which is why when they announced that I was going to be the winner of the whole thing, I was very shocked.
What was that moment like, Marody? I mean, I've seen the pictures of you on stage with the Canadian flag. Did you have a Newfoundland flag with you too?
No, I didn't have a Newfoundland flag with me, sadly.
Oh, it's okay. We'll get that one next time when you repeat. But no, really, the moment that you're on stage, you sound like you were completely surprised that you won.
I don't usually stutter when I speak, but when I was supposed to give that speech on stage, I stuttered for a bit. I was just so shocked. I knew I won when they started mentioning that. They mentioned the Diploma of Excellence, which is another project who did one thing really, really well. And they mentioned that you're going to see a theme that plastic pollution has decided the winners for this year. And they started mentioning my project, how interdisciplinary it was, and how many different technologies were combined. And I think my mouth was wide open.
Yeah, because they just started mentioning elements of it, not necessarily who won. And then you started saying, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure this is mine.
Exactly.
And let me see, you were presented the award by the Crown Prince Victoria of Sweden, is that correct?
Yes, and another great thing about that is after I got the award, I got to have a one-on-one conversation with her.
That was my next question. So how did that go?
So we talked about how beautiful Sweden was, and I think she knows that. But then we also talked about how important it is that there's more resources for people to build projects like mine. Like when I built my project, I really struggled finding a data set I could use to train my AI, so I had to make my own. Wow. And I feel that like university labs, they've made these things for like years. I feel like it would be best if they released these to the public, or we found a way to incentivize them to the research they're no longer using. They can release part of it to the public, so people, especially young people, can contribute to fixing our environment.
Yeah, we hope so. And I mean, clearly AI has assisted with this on your front. I mean, I'm sure you're uber aware of not just the advantages of AI, but the risks of it. We're, as a student, I think, are you grade 12 or?
I'm entering grade 12.
Entering grade 12 this year at St. Bon's, right?
Exactly.
My alma mater as well. We all stand on the hill. She stands majestic. But I'm wondering to you, given your, experience now with AI and how it's, assisted you in achieving this incredible award, incredible achievement. Where does your, mind and your thoughts land on AI and the risks versus the incredible technology that can produce the kind of robotics that you were able to create?
Me personally, I believe the risk of AI lands in the general models. There's many models that should be. The best way I can explain is that I don't think AI should be used for like arts and media production. The things you present to other humans, you should be clear that it is your work. But I feel that a specialized AI that is trained for a specific task, like piloting an autonomous robot, helping someone with disabilities in their house, I feel like those AI models are what's best, and we should focus on those.
Yeah, and are you concerned, though, that it can get away from us in some cases? The grandfathers of AI right now, those who are in the leading, the positions around the world in the big companies, whether it's Microsoft or wherever, or Apple, they and OpenAI and all these other organizations, they're sounding, I hate the term, but they're sounding the alarm. There's no question about how we have to rein it in and be way more careful with how these programs can get away from us. So I'm just curious, coming from a high school student who's had a lot more experience using it and applying it than most of us have, as opposed to, say, a chatbot or something looking for up something on Google. I'm always curious to see where your mind is, because you're the next generation and you'll be the, not to put too much pressure on you, but you'll be the gatekeepers very much.
Of course. I feel that when it comes to AI, humanity has always been very innovation focused. And when it comes to AI is just another technology that is being hyped up a lot. They're doing a lot of work on it. I feel that while we're here, we do need a lot of safety. We do need a lot of regulation. But I think the first thing we have to do is drive our innovation, because that's what makes amazing things happen.
Yeah, and well, you're leading that front for sure. Your school must be absolutely proud. How was the welcome back?
It was nice. On my flight back, some people actually recognized me.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So what was the flight back? So is it through Heathrow and then back?
Luckily, there was a direct flight to Stockholm. The direct flight to Toronto from Stockholm.
Okay.
And then from Toronto, I landed in St. John's in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah. I've been there, done that. It's too bad, though, because you're watching the map, on your flight, and you're watching it go right over St. John's, and you got to go on to Toronto. And then,
exactly.
I always hate that one, too. Marody, look, I really appreciate you making time. We always have, when we do one of these initial calls and say, hey, let us know what happened. Well, we all know what happened. The 2026 Stockholm Junior Water Prize. Man, congratulations again. Good luck with grade 12 at a great school. And we look forward to your next accomplishments, which, oh God, I can only imagine.
Can I just add something?
You absolutely can.
The Newfoundland Science Fair Council, the people who run the Newfoundland Science Fair, I want to give a big thanks to them. They're wonderful. It's only through them that I was able to accomplish such an amazing thing, that they gave me the opportunity to even represent Newfoundland. which I saw I got to represent Canada. So I feel like it's important to acknowledge that work, and then I hope more people end up joining the science fair this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to, acknowledge those who helped you. Certainly, you don't get to do it on your own. Your teachers and your family and everyone. I mean, they must be so proud.
Of course.
Incredible accomplishment. And thanks for making us proud. I'm sure you you may not have had the flag to wave, but I'm sure you ceremonially or in spirit waved the Newfoundland and Labrador flag at the same time.
Exactly. That's what I did. When I was telling people about Canada, I mostly told them about Newfoundland and our interesting history.
Yeah. Were they aware of us?
Now they are.
Just to another extent. Marody, thanks again. Appreciate it. Congratulations. I look forward to whatever is next in the future for you. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Great. Thanks again. Take care. That's great. Great. Good news story. People are always crying out to me, enough of the bad news. I'm not going to listen anymore. Well, that's a great news story, a great local news story. And just a quick note yesterday on the topic of lost dogs. I have another one, and I don't have an update on Reed, who was lost just west of Gander, hoping something turns out on a positive front there. But there is a reward offered for a lost, a little miniature pinscher Chihuahua cross that escaped care in Kilbride on August the 27th, which was yesterday, was it not? Yeah, at 5 p.m. So around supper time last evening. In the Kilbride area, we're asking residents keep an eye, this emailer says, out for Katie. Aw. And apparently she's a runner. So the emailer asks, could you please mention it to your listeners so we can reunite this dog with her owner? I would love nothing more to reunite Katie with her owner. So there's a number here that I'll pass along now, but we'll also have it here in the studio at Open Line if you'd like to, or you have any sightings or any way you'd like to help. Number is 709-691-6983. 691-6983 if you're in the Kilbride area or general area, you never know, where Katie might have been able to get since her disappearance last night around supper time or since she ran off. So, yeah, let's find Katie and reunite with the owner as soon as possible. And we'll take all of those calls, of course. You got a lost dog, the power of Open Line. Let's get off to the 10 o'clock news. We'll come back. Got a few lines open, but they'll fill up quick, as experience tells us. Off to the news. We'll be right back.
This is VOCM Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And welcome back to the program. So I'm going to catch up real quick. Couple of lines open, but of course we're looking for your calls before it's too late. And on this Friday, of course, because that'll be it until next week, and we always get a flood at the end. But I wanted to mention, and somebody asked me why I hadn't, just because I haven't had the time. But we do know, boys, it doesn't rain but it pours for HMP. So, of course, we know now that the province has confirmed that there's an internal review been launched into the quote-unquote financial and administrative process at the province's largest correctional facility. And, of course, at HMP. So they're going to, they say, of course, the standard line. They take any incidents like this very seriously, which is why it took immediate action. So Dan Chafe, of course, has been the province's superintendent of prisons for at least the last 6-7 years, overseeing, the 5 correctional facilities in the province, including the 2 lockups, and served as high sheriff for 5 years before that. Now, the department, of course, now commenting on Mr. Chafe's current status. However, it's understood that a former provincial manager of institutional programs, I believe it's Susan Green, she's now the acting superintendent of prisons, and she's been appointed, I think, as of August the 12th. One of the interesting parts for me, so Mr. Chafe, of course, had been there for 5, 6, 7 years, since 2020, I believe. But I was covering this case recently, and you may remember, if the name sounded familiar to you at all, outside of the fact that he was a superintendent of prisons, and that would be enough maybe in the news to make it sound familiar. But you might remember the largest seizure of guns, including the fake guns and munitions, and the RNC paraded it all out, guns of all shapes and sizes, firepower, 3D printers, silencers, bulletproof vests. So part of that arrest and the subsequent trial and the remand, while the accused there, Scott Waterman, was in prison on remand, there was a letter that was written and signed as part of the evidence in court, talking about the submission on a 7-year sentence, and it included a note from the superintendent of prisons, and in it, a judge took Mr. Chafe to task for calling the accused the gun guy, nicknaming him the gun guy throughout this. And of course, the judge and the defense lawyer for the accused in that case was, needless to say, you had the gentleman presumed innocent at that point, but in these formal letters and submissions on whether or not he should be released, you had the superintendent of prisons calling him, and this was in open court, by the way, and we reported it here on VOCM, and it's on our website too. I think it was Judge James Walsh was not impressed at the time that he was called the gun guy, that there was a nickname to it. Needless to say, and the gun guy's lawyer, again, because there was no conviction, he was presumed innocent. So nicknaming him like that, he was taken to task for that during that trial. That just stands out to me because raised a lot of eyebrows in the courtroom at that time. So I mentioned that. In any event, the Financial Irregularities Department has engaged, we're told, the Office of the Comptroller General. We don't know a lot about it other than that there was alleged fraud involving monies or financial irregularities, as they say. So the Office of the Comptroller General, as part of the review process, they are going over this and investigating and receiving the results. And once they are available, the department says they'll release those said results. I think the Auditor General has been notified as well. So anyway, we will be keeping you apprised of that one. I just mentioned it because people were asking me about it. And one other note, somebody asked me if, a couple of separate notes, having noticed lately that a lot of old cars around the city had tinted side windows. And not standard in these cars. They're aftermarket and they're illegal, of course. The rule is saying no aftermarket tint is allowed. Only clear, non-tinted stickers or frost shields that do not impair vision are permitted. So somebody asking to what extent the enforcement is being had. And I've had a few calls on this, of course, over the past few weeks. Every now and then it raises its head. So this emailer says, I've never seen a police officer pull over a vehicle for this. I've noticed a lot of these cars delivering food lately, so referring to, the various food delivery companies, and have blocked outside windows. Well, not that. I mean, which I guess it's not just limited to that, but certainly just sitting and I mention this because just sitting at a light yesterday, the car right next to me was in that very boat, completely blocked out. Couldn't see a way, and even the front. And I don't know how that works, but once again, we have only so much enforcement at our fingertips, and the police have a lot, the RNC, the RCMP have lots on their plate, to say the least. And so one always wonders to what extent they're going to enforce that if and when they have time to do it. I left work here yesterday and down Kenmount, and there had to be at least 3 or 4 different incidents where police were involved. They were all over the place. So I think there was one accident, but then there were 2 others just parked with their lights on in a parking lot. And it does feel very much like it's on wheels these days. Okay, going to take that next break, Beth, and I think we'll call, a couple of callers here. We'll get to Kelsey, wants to talk about healthcare right after the break.
This is VOCM Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And welcome back to the program. Is Kelly, we had Kelly on line 1. Did we lose Kelly off that? Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to mention one other one while we see if we can reclaim, and otherwise we can go to our next. What do you think, Beth? Okay, I'll just hang on for a sec, see if we can get her back on. I just wanted to mention these squishy dumpling toys. I don't know if you've noticed this, but another parent asked me if I'd heard about it and what's going on. So these squishy toys, the squishies, of course, there have been some safety concerns reported. Amazon Canada has removed them from shelves and that sort of things. Or initially, I think, came out of the UK, showing that they could potentially be a health hazard. So we've all seen these squishy toys, often marketed as calming sensory tools, really. And many companies have created these off-brand versions of them that are sold online, although safety officials found there are some counterfeit ones out there that could contain toxic chemicals, leading to serious health risks. And Health Canada is looking into this, health risks and burns if the toys break open. And according to the cases that have been reported, the sticky gel, that's inside these things has left some kids with red irritated, and in some cases peeling skin. So, according to Amazon, they're confirming that some toys in question were removed from its website. It said it requires all products, of course, offered in their stores to comply with applicable laws, regulations, and Amazon policies. They advise that the product are subject to Canadian regulatory requirements and do not specifically address the reported safety concerns for the emerging toy category. So anyway, earlier in August, I do know that the Consumer Product Safety Commission had also issued a warning about this, about counterfeit squishy toys, reiterating the warning about serious burn hazards, and that came out of the U.S. So just a heads up on that. I know they are pretty popular, but again, you'd want to waiting for something more official than just Amazon taking them off the shelves, of course. And one other thing I wanted to mention, and after speaking with the mayor of Marystown yesterday, who was on hand for this big announcement down on the Burin Peninsula at St. Lawrence. And this is, of course, the Nord Space, the port, the spaceport in St. Lawrence. They made numerous attempts, of course, we know, to get Canada's first commercial rocket launch off the ground last year. But, of course, the weather and a bunch of other issues got in the way of that, not least of which were the forest fires, and there was just so much else going on. But anyway, a big announcement this week. So there's funding for the province. It's going to be $1 million loan and a $3 million forgivable loan, creating about 100 jobs over 7 years. The federal and provincial governments made the announcement yesterday. And another $1 million from Ottawa on top of the $8 million provided in March. So I think I saw Sean Fraser there, the minister, yesterday down on site with the whole contingent. So great news. I mean, look, I don't know how many people thought this was a thing or a real thing. But government says the cash flow will drive jobs in the region, create more business on the Burin Peninsula. And Ottawa says it still plans to spend nearly $2 trillion on the space business by 2040. And having a nice spaceport here, needless to say, put us on the map. And we always also know, always it's kind of our route over Newfoundland and Labrador. It's one of those last resort, just in case something goes wrong with the space shuttle. We've always been that backup landing space, our territory here. So, there are those connections, and it'll be really great to see that this finally come to some level of reality. Absolutely. And the other thing I've been asked to mention, if we can see if Kelly's still, if we could reconnect with her, because I don't want to bypass, and we have lines open, the Meta settlement. Absolutely. And, you knew that there was going to be a settlement, and that's primarily because they were not going to have Mark Zuckerberg testimony, get it to testimony where he could be questioned and that sort of thing. Anyway, we have Kelsey back on the line. God love her. I didn't want to give that away or short shrift. And yeah, okay, so a few lines are waiting. Let's go right to Kelsey. It is Kelsey, right? Line number 1.
Yes. Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
Not so great. Angry, exhausted, frustrated.
Right.
I've been dealing with the healthcare system for 7 months now. Being repeatedly sent home. I'm after contacting the Premier's office. I've sat in that hospital numerous amounts of hours. I never got anywhere. I was told by a doctor at the Health Science that it would be a waste of an internist's time to call me in, to get him in to admit me.
Did he explain that in the moment? A waste of time, really, regarding your health?
Yeah, a waste of time. And so I left there and I said, I'm done going back there. It was a numerous amount of trips. So I went to a walk-in clinic and got sent to a doctor outside of Eastern Health who seen me, who was actually an internist, and he seen me. I was 90 pounds. And he said I'm the smallest person in Newfoundland, vomiting, couldn't keep anything down. I looked like, he said to me, Kelsey, he said, I've never seen somebody lose so much weight so fast.
And was he able to tell you what was at the root of it all?
He sent me for an endoscopy. Actually, he didn't recommend me have one on the Avalon at all. So he sent me to Clarenville to have one done. And they found a gastric inlet patch in my throat. It's 15 by 30 millimeters.
Jeez.
And I can barely eat. I'm shaking. I'm vomiting. The doctor put me on the strongest acid reflux medication while I'm waiting for an appointment, and nausea medication. And I'm still waiting for an appointment here in town. They couldn't do it, burn it off out there in Cranville because they didn't have the resources.
So they
now
sent
I'm
you there
waiting
they sent you there for the endoscopy, but they didn't have the resources to actually treat you.
Yep. So then I'm waiting for an appointment here in town. I've been put on a waiting list 14 days ago because the doctor who done my endoscopy went on vacation and never sent my referral in.
I've heard that story before as well.
I'm left waiting, calling, trying to get a hold of somebody, and nobody cares. I've contacted everybody. I've been on the phone with NL Health Services. I've talked to the health minister. Like, I've sent her numerous amount of emails. I've sent Tony Wakeham numerous amount of emails, and none of them has even responded to me. And like, what that was his plan, wasn't it? Like, when he got in, he was going to do all this health care, and I was just so fed up. Like, I just don't understand. Our system is gone, and I don't understand how it's gotten this bad. I'm not blaming the doctors. I'm not blaming the nurses. I'm not blaming anyone like that. I understand they're under an enormous amount of pressure. But when somebody comes in with the same symptoms over and over and over again and they're not getting better, I was sitting in the hospital thrown up into a bucket for 15 or 20 hours, and they sent me home. 5 or 6 times sent me home. And I'm still in bed. I'm trying to get back to work, and I can't even work.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an electrician.
And so this came, did you have anything pre-existing before this? This just all started 7 months ago, 8 months ago?
So I actually had some problems. Like, I was like with acid reflux. I thought it was acid reflux. I was showing up to the walk-in clinic with acid reflux symptoms, and then just after Christmas, I went off for 2 weeks on Christmas, and when I came back, it just hit, it just hit me all at once, and it's growing on my throat is what it is.
And so the endoscopy was done, and what was the result of that? They give you something just to stem the growth of it, anything like that, or just to keep you from feeling bad?
They just gave me acid reflux medication. I'm taking 80 milligrams of acid reflux medication twice in the morning, twice in the evening.
Oh, so that's not addressing the actual growth or anything like that?
No, it's just trying to stop the acid until I can get treatment.
And you're on a wait list. That's, did you say 2 weeks? As of when?
August 14th, I was placed on the waiting list.
August 14th. Okay, so that's exactly 2 weeks ago today.
Yep. And I'm after calling everybody I can to try to get in. I just want to feel better. I just want to go back to work.
No kidding.
I'm only 27 years old.
Do you have any compensation for your work at this point? Are you...
I was on sick leave, and I just got tired of it. I just got tired of everything, and I'm just trying to get back to work. I just want to try to get better. So I'm trying to ease back into it a little bit, and I'm 4 or 5 days now off work. I was a couple of days off work last week. I can't get anywhere. Some days I feel fine, and other days I feel like somebody just jumped me into the ground, and that's the way it is until I can get it burned off.
Yeah, look, they address these cases, I guess, they put people on wait lists. They do assessments and try to put people as a priority, those who are the most urgent cases. We can only assume that the people who are ahead of you are a more serious condition than you and aren't having those situations where you have good days and bad days. There may be people on that list who only have bad days and are getting worse faster. I don't know. We have to hope that the system is running. Pardon? Yeah,
absolutely.
We have to hope that that's the way it's working. But when you don't get any response and there's no communication, and then there's a form that's waiting out there in the air somewhere that hasn't been put through. I have another caller like that this week, this woman, Rhonda, who's waiting just to hear back from her doctor. And I call the office, and apparently they're closed this week because there's a health issue there. So, my God, it's... And
there are bigger, symptomatic problems behind it. There are staff shortages.
Absolutely.
overcrowded emergency departments. I understand that, but a system that can become so focused on treating an immediate crisis rather than an underlying issue is my problem.
And that's
people present to the emergency room. Like I had a numerous amount of people tell me their stories while I was sitting in that emergency room, like going through the same thing, and they're actually having strangled hernias, and they're having septum bleeding. Like the doctor told me down there, we don't call endoscopy doctors in here unless you're bleeding. Yeah. Unless you're bleeding from the inside.
Well, that's the reality of a system that's under total crisis and stress, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
The system is limited to the most serious cases right now. I mean, they'll get to the other cases, but wait lists and the priorities, obviously, they don't want people dying in hallways, and they don't want people being prevented, who may be very close and are very serious condition. Obviously, those are the people they're going to treat first, and in a stressed system, they may or may not get to the others, or they will, but over a lot longer. The wait lists are as a result of a system that's just bursting at the seams, even though we have, and you'll hear it all the time, the most caring, thoughtful, do whatever they can for you healthcare staffing. But the staffing is the issue, right? When there's not enough of them and people are trying to do more work than they're supposed to be doing. And then, Pete, they need a break as well, in the summer months. So it's, the 2-week waiting period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think that, trying to get through to somebody, sitting there, nobody knows what's wrong with you. Nobody knows what's going on with you. You're sitting there with symptoms in that emergency room. How do they know that you're not dying or what's going on? You're just there pushed off, sent home, you're okay. Nothing comes back on your blood work, but you don't know what's growing on you on the inside.
That's always true.
So, I'm just putting it out there. If you're sick and you're once ago and you got to go to the hospital and you comes back with nothing, go. Keep going. Yep. Don't let somebody tell you that you're not sick. Advocate for yourself. Because that's what you got to do. Because listen, don't get sick in Newfoundland, buddy. I'm telling you that.
It's not just Newfoundland and Labrador. I can guarantee you that. We're seeing.
Yeah, but you'll pay for it. You can go down and pay for it, and I would much rather. That's what I think I'm going to do. Is I'm going to leave here and pay for health care because it's not working here.
Well, it's a slippery slope, two-tier healthcare, and people who can't afford it and can't, and separating the two, and then the inequality. That's not what we had in mind when the father of healthcare, when this was devised a long time ago. Anyway, look, I got to get off to a break here. Kelsey, I appreciate the call. I know how many other people are in the same situation as you are. Just trying to wait. We know what it works like in the healthcare system, the wait lists and the hours that you're waiting. Some of these staff need to sit in the waiting room like you and talk to some of those patients, to get a really first-hand view. Because you're right.
That's what I said. I was like, maybe what if Tony Wakeham or somebody happened to go down there and, are they going to get taken in right away because of who they are? Or are they going to sit in that waiting room for 20 hours like I did a numerous amount of times? But anyways, I appreciate you listening to me today.
I appreciate the call. And we just have to be reminded that this is still happening. There's a Churchill Falls thing to talk about, but these other issues are not going away. And sometimes governments are happy to focus on something else so that some of the big crises aren't in the news every day. And I know I would advise, I'm sure you've done it, but I'd advise, like your MHA or anything like that. But I know you've been contacting everyone and the frustration is real. So let me know if you can at some point how it's working out, Kelsey.
I will, absolutely. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, I wish you nothing but the best. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Okay, the healthcare stories like these are far too many. It's rough. Listen to what people are going through and the wait list. So I know she said don't get sick. I mean, if we only had that power. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
This is VOCM Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 2 and the PCMHA for Labrador West. Joe Power, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How you doing?
Good morning. Pretty good. Pretty good. May we live in interesting times, Joe.
Yeah, for sure.
I should also mention you're the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Labrador Affairs, Gail Evans, of course.
Yes, yeah, that's correct as well. Yeah. I just wanted to come on this morning, Brian, and talk about the new agreement for Churchill Falls and I know you heard this before, that this agreement guarantees that our province will receive more power, more value, and more transmission. There's a lot of ways to look at that in other than talking about megawatts and power and all that. This agreement gives us an opportunity here in Labrador West especially to turn the page and build a stronger energy future. It's about creating conditions for the next generation of mining development, especially here in Labrador West. This announcement, particularly for Labrador West, the $1 billion for the transmission line into Lab West, is going to open up so many opportunities here for the mining industry. We can attract new investments, create new jobs, ensure that we have the power that here to ensure what we need for mines to expand, new mines to open, and the potential for this transmission line coming in here to Labrador West is extremely important to our community.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, that is the most obvious part of it. We know the potential, but of course you're stagnant right now. I mean, it's maxed out. And beyond that, there's so much on this that has to be considered, Joe, as you know.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the obvious things, and you said it, right? I mean, we've heard the line over. We know that this is the talking point, the more power, more value, more transmission. And the devil is in the details, and we're not going to get into all of the, as you said, the numbers this morning. I'm more concerned, Joe, about just, are you okay with all of this? I mean, you've heard, I know you've been hearing some of the criticism, and, should we be more looking at getting it as soon as possible, or should we, be pumping the brakes and make sure that we get the best possible deal out of it? Because there's enough out there, conflicting information. I mean, obviously, the deal has been signed tentatively. It's non-binding at this point. But, there are some pretty knowledgeable, experienced people out there. Are we just blocking that out as a government, or are we considering that there could be errors here, there could be mistakes? Because this final agreement, as the minister has noted, is not going to go before an independent, unbiased third-party review, people who have no skin in the game, who are just looking at the cost-benefit analysis and whether it is, in fact, in our best interest.
Yeah, I can't argue with you, Brian. There is a lot of debate out there over the new agreement and that, but
and concern, right? I don't want to just say debate, but there is real, true concern. Sorry.
Yeah, and there's people saying we can get a better deal. There's people saying we should wait until 2041. Right now, this agreement is about seizing opportunities that are available to us, right? That will bring greater value, greater certainty, and greater economic opportunity for all of Newfoundland and Labrador. There's arguments out there that we should wait. But like I said, waiting till 2041 too is there's billions of dollars that we can avail of right now that will come in to the provincial economy that can certainly go a long ways in this province when it comes to pavement, healthcare system, everything, especially here in Labrador. I'm going to say it, we've been years and years fighting for things here all across Labrador, not only in Labrador West, and now we have an opportunity with this agreement to make Labrador grow. We can invest in infrastructure for municipalities here in Labrador and give the people what we've served over the years.
Did you, was there, and I know, you can't get into, obviously, cabinet discussions and secrecy and all that sort of thing, but, did you have a problem, your conscience and all that sort of thing, given that there was a promise of a referendum? I have to ask the question because people keep reminding me to remind people, because it was a big promise and a big part of the election platform.
Yeah. Again, I can't argue with you. That promise was made, but things have changed over the last year, especially now with the federal government involved, right? Federal government is they're putting billions of dollars into this right now, and we have an opportunity to seize that. So that has definitely changed the fact whether or not we should have a referendum, right? we have a Prime Minister now with the federal government ready to step up and start investing in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we have to take this opportunity and take advantage of what the federal government is offering us right now.
I guess the question is... sorry.
That's the main thing when it comes to whether or not we should have a referendum, right?
Yeah, well, I guess if, obviously the Premier has said we won't. And, just on the basis, just on the principle of it, that's not sitting well with some people. But I guess the question is always, there was a thought and a mantra that we're going to take our time. We have all the leverage right now. Clearly, Ottawa and Quebec want this badly right now. And I've just said it before, we're in a great leverage position. Do we shoot ourselves in the foot again by rushing into it and signing another big 50-year agreement without some out clauses? Or at least, periodic reviews. So Quebec talks about the goodwill, the partnerships. Let's face it, the partnerships, that's all lovely political platitudes. But, this is business, big business, especially as far as Quebec goes, and their need for power yesterday, not today. So the urgency is on Quebec and Ottawa, not necessarily us. Yes, it would be great to get those projects going in Labrador, the Labrador Trough, the potential for the wind farm. And I agree with some of the pundits out there saying, we'll see how a wind farm operates in the Labrador cold. We know that the problems that were with the construction of just Muskrat, but getting these big wind turbines to operate in that kind of climate, there's a lot of great planning, but do we rush into it too much without these sort of periodic reviews to make sure that we don't get, SCREWED'd again?
I don't think we're rushing into it, and I'll just go back to regards to the referendum for a minute. Now I know we're going to open the House on September the 14th for debate, and the Premier is telling us that all MHAs, all ministers, all MHAs will get a chance to debate this and scrutinise the deal. As far as I know, they're going to bring in all the experts, so everybody will get a chance to answer the questions in that as well. But regarding, like I said, taking our time in that, I think we've took what the Independent Review Committee suggested to us. That was things that had to change from the 2024 MOU, and we followed their recommendations at this time, and we do have a better deal than the original 2024 MOU, and there's always going to be people debate it, and I always think that we're making mistakes in that, but right now we have a good opportunity to work with Quebec and the federal government.
Last thing on that, you just mentioned that all the experts will be there in the House. Are you familiar? Do you know yet what experts, who exactly will be appearing to answer the questions?
No, not for sure, Brian. I'm not going to say I do or I don't, but because I don't know who's going to be there, I'm just listening to what's being said, and that everybody's going to have an opportunity to ask the questions and that. And I've got questions, Brian. I'm on the side of the government.
What would be?
I've got questions.
What's your biggest question?
My biggest question right now is. I'm here representing the people of Labrador West, and my biggest question right now will be, if this agreement don't go through, is the possibility of a transmission line still being built here to come into Labrador West? Whether or not we get a deal or not, we still need power here in Labrador West for a future development. I've been reaching out to constituents here, and they've been reaching out to me. Talk to mining companies. I'm going to talk to municipalities. I'm going to reach out to Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
If anybody got any questions here in Labrador West, I will certainly bring them forward. That's what I'm here for. Yeah,
because I heard Jordan Brown, mentioning, they don't want just fly in, fly out. They don't want just camps. They want, there's a big need right now if this boom is going to happen. We can't just be looking at getting the line up. We got to get houses built.
Yeah, and that's all part of our government's plan now with Team Labrador as well. I'm looking forward to that too as well, Brian. Myself, Minister Evans, and MHA Russell. I'm actually looking really forward to that, to meet with all the players in Labrador, see what infrastructure, what communities all over Labrador need. And again, I'm looking forward to getting this Team Labrador started.
Yeah, and last thing on that, I would say it's unfortunate that there aren't other representatives from other parties on this. I mean, on this so-called Team Labrador. I mean, if it's Team Labrador, I think it would have been a great gesture and a show of nonpartisan politics here, that we're all on the same team, for Lisa Dempster to be on that. The only, district there that's not represented, it just happens to be a Liberal member. Whatever the reason, it just has a bad look when we're talking about the importance of putting politics aside here and getting the best possible deal, the best information back to the residents on the crown jewel, on the most important decision in our province's history back in '69 and now renewing it. So I just wonder about that and why we didn't at least extend that olive branch, and include that on the team.
Yeah, I don't know, Brian. Again, I'll be honest with you, that was not my call. Again, I represent Labrador West, and I'm proud to be part of that team. And again, I'll be honest with you, that call was over my head. I welcome anybody on the team, but again, it's not my decision to put the team in place and decide who's on the team. But I would welcome anybody on the team.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know it wasn't your decision. I guess kind of wondering how you felt about it, if it raised eyebrows, but I understand. Joe, listen, I appreciate the call, and obviously we'll see what happens in mid-September. Look forward to it. I tell you, a lot of people looking forward to that.
And there is, and I'm looking forward to the debate myself, right?
And maybe even the protest beforehand. I don't know. Are you going into the back door?
I don't know. I'm not. We'll deal with that when it comes.
Absolutely. Cross that bridge. All right, Joe, thanks again. MHO Joe Power for Labrador West, PCMHA. Thanks again. Take care. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, Beth, a few minutes past there, but important discussions all around. Let's see. We got Josh Smee there on food security, Cecil there on his dismay with public washroom accessibility, and Alvin Hewlett right there on hydro. Yeah, always great chat with Alvin. We'll be right back.
This is VOCM Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And welcome back to the program. Let's welcome now the newly minted Minister of Women and Gender Equality, Minister of Labrador Affairs, Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, the PCMHA for Torngat Mountains. Leila Evans, you're on the air.
Hey, how are you?
Good morning, Minister. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I don't think I'm newly minted in those cabinet roles. I've been sworn in now since October, and I think I took on Women and Gender in February. So what it is I've left health, all the three health portfolios. I left them in good hands with Minister Jody Wall. I mean, he's just he's an all-around right guy, minister to take on the health portfolios. We've got a lot of work done, but there's still a lot of work left to do, and we're still working together. Just want to reassure everybody out there, too, is that we're not leaving gaps when one minister leaves a portfolio. We are actually making sure that the work that was being done gets carried on. So it's in good hands. So. Yeah,
sure. No, and I guess in the terms of just the recent shuffle and the removal of health from your portfolio, I would imagine, and maybe newly minted is not correct word terminology. I appreciate that. Right. But rarely, I will say this, does a minister have such pre-existing expertise in the portfolios they're given as you do right now? I mean, you must be probably feeling a little more at home in more ways than one.
Well, in actual fact, I mean, the only thing I think that's changed for me is I will have a bit more time. Yeah. Like in terms of my schedule, with all those portfolios, to make it work and to do a really good job and make sure that every ministerial portfolio, was being handled correctly and dedicated resources put into it. My whole day was full, every day, and including on the weekends. And that was something that, I keep reassuring the Premier Tony Wakeham that I was comfortable with. I was up to the challenge after, 6+ years in opposition and just asking for things to change and for improvements. And for me is I gladly put the effort into it and the energy into it, and it was very rewarding for me.
To say the least, I can just imagine, and again, I highlight those portfolios because, again, as you mentioned, it's just that health has been removed. So daunting still issues cover all of these, not the least of which how Churchill Falls, the new agreement fits into them. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about that, so I'll give you the floor.
Yes, and in actual fact, like just looking at leaving health, but still having all that knowledge expertise, as you called it, I would say like a good understanding is I'm also bringing that to Labrador with the new development. One of the things that, the Premier and I talked about, in depth was that Labradorians feel left out a lot of times, and Labrador really honestly has never got its fair share when it comes to services and infrastructure. But we've contributed greatly to the economy of the province, through all the revenue. We just got to look at, Lab West, and we look at Voisey's Bay, we look at all the hydro. But for me is one of the major focuses has to be on readiness, and myself, Joe Power, the MHA for Lab West, even though he's new, he's a strong advocate. He's got a lot of history in Lab West in terms of, what the issues are. Same thing with Keith Russell in Happy Valley Goose Bay. And, and the Premier does coin the phrase Team Labrador because that's what he refers to us, because we're always advocating, because Labrador needs advocacy. And for us is one of the things we want to make sure is that we're prepared. So, you see the town of Happy Valley Goose Bay in the news a lot now talking about the gaps in services and infrastructure and really the burden that they've had to bear for past projects. So what we want to do now is we want to get a handle, not just from businesses and organizations, but from residents as well. We want to make sure the supports are there. So bringing over the health experience as well, mental health and addictions, that is a huge concern, not only for Central Labrador, but also for all regions of Labrador. And when we look at the social economic, the cost of food, in Labrador, we look at transportation, and you've heard all of these issues on open line transportation. Our government's done a lot, like in terms of the Air Access program. We doubled the number of subsidized seats, but also we want to get to the root of the cost. When we look at services and infrastructure, we're working with the town. Some of the issues are quick issues, but what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be setting this up so that we can actively engage with people, organizations, and businesses who want to make sure that that they're ready and that they don't show Labradorians and doesn't shoulder the burden of the big projects. And also, too, is we have a lot of work left to do ensuring that, the Innu and the Inuit of Labrador, the Indigenous people, has a voice. And the Premier has been very adamant in terms of this new deal that the Innu are properly consulted and that they have a good working knowledge of what the agreement has, and also that they're not just they're not just a stakeholder; they're a partner in the development. So that's something that we as new government are doing and preparing.
How do you navigate this issue with the Innu? I mean, they are rightly skeptical. I know that the new Grand Chief, Jody Ashley, was at the announcement on the harbour for Churchill Falls, but we know, the signs of government suggestions of limiting their timelines for existence. These are bubbling under the surface, and I know there are, we're including in talks and that sort of things now, but how do you approach that? It's, it's still a very nervous time for the Innu on that front, especially when it gets to the root of that in terms of their own existence, which the government seems to be putting forth of 300 years as opposed to the thousands that they claim.
Yes, and for us, like I says, we formed government in October. We're a new government, and there's been a lot of distrust built over the last 10 years with the Liberal government. It got so heated with the Innu that they actually sent letters to the Premier Fury at the time, calling for the resignation of the Minister of Labrador and Indigenous Affairs, calling for the resignation. And in actual fact, it wasn't long after that Nunavut government, out of frustration, started doing the same thing, calling for the resignation. So for us, is what I would say, and I did say this to the new Grand Chief, we're a new government, but most importantly is we want to make sure the Innu are treated fairly. That's the most important thing, and because in the past, weren't even treated fairly, let alone given the advantage that a lot of people who don't understand the politics and the history say. And that's where a lot of the racist views that we see online comes from, because they think that the are wanting things that they're not entitled to. And fairness is something that everybody deserves. So for me, and coming from Labrador, and having really strong ties with Innu in terms of friendship and relationships, and knowing the history, I want to make sure that the Innu are treated fairly as well, and the Premier has empowered me to make sure that in this new team that we have together now, to make sure that happens. And before my time runs out, I just want to address something. I don't know if it was brought up. I just received a text from one of my co-workers saying that you were discussing Lisa Dempster and Team Labrador and her exclusion, but I know she was on the news when we established the team under Premier VOCM. I just want to address something now, is that Lisa Dempster, the MHA for Cartwright-Lands-Leclerc, she don't have to worry about not being engaged. We're going to engage her. We're going to listen to her concerns, and we're going to take those concerns back to the different the appropriate departments and the appropriate ministers, and at the cabinet table, those concerns. But I got to say, Labradorians needs to hear this. We will be engaging with the residents of Southern Labrador, Cartwright-Lands-Leclerc. We will be engaging with the residents of Lake Melville. We will be engaging with Lab West and Torngat Mountains, Northern Labrador. We will make sure that people have voices, and that the most important thing, and the reason why we're doing it this way, is it's our government. It's a new government. We want to do government better. So what we're going to do is, the gaps in services and infrastructure that's been raised and that we know about, and we're going to hear from the people, those gaps in services and infrastructure, we're going to bring those back, not only to cabinet but to the appropriate departments, to make sure that that's on the radar, so we can start working on it early, before the project starts and while the project is ongoing. And one of the things that I want to say, what I've heard a lot about when I was in opposition, was that yes, at the beginning of the project or before the project just starts, there's engagement, and then we don't hear no more from government after. Our government's going to do things differently, because we as Labradorians have to make sure that Labrador starts getting its fair share. And I think once Labradorians see that, and companies see it, and businesses and organizations and women's organizations and people who are fighting for food security and housing, once they start to see that, I think a lot of this distrust that's been built up over the years against government will start to fade, and people will feel more comfortable. But the only way that can happen is by real action that addresses the issues, and so that Labradorians can see that they are finally getting a fair share and that they have a voice at the table.
Minister Evans, I know your time is short and we're well over it, so I appreciate your call this morning and the information. I'm sure we'll speak again in due course. Thank you again for your time.
Do I have just 1 minute to add something? I just want to say, once we're in the middle of this and engaging and looking at all the gaps in services and what Labrador needs, we're also going to be using that information to add into the new Northern Strategic Plan our government's going to be developing for Labrador and for the northern regions of our province. Is also going to be feeding in to the poverty reduction strategy that our government's working on. We want to make sure that we're actually taking real action, and so that these things are going to be credible ways that we can improve the quality of life for all people of the province, no matter where you live and no matter what your social economic status is as a resident. Everybody needs to have hope for these projects that life is going to get better. So I'll end it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister Evans. Take care. Okie doke. We got some catching up to do. Off to the news. We'll be right back.
This is VOCM Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And welcome back to the program. Just a quick note to our listeners. A caller says they have found a set of keys along the CBS highway. That's all I have as far as description goes. Assuming it's the old highway, I guess, not necessarily peacekeepers, but they have a Volkswagen tag and apparently an RCMP light. I guess that's one of these little spotlight things that you have on your key ring. Can't remember the formal word for it, but anyway, apparently it's got an RCMP logo on it, and it's one of these little lights that's attached to the key ring. So a Volkswagen tag and found a set of keys along the CBS highway somewhere. So if that sounds familiar to you, you can give us a shout here at Open Line, and we'll put you in touch with the individual who picked them up. Let's go right to line number 3. And Cecil, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Brian. It's good to chat to you again.
Yes, sir.
My wife and I, we just got back from a 3-month driving trip across Canada, but the main issue is we came back across Labrador, and we're coming down in the same issue that we saw when we first got here, is the lack of washrooms. Like even in public rest areas, you might have a picnic table or a chair and a garbage can, a great view, but nowhere to go. And it's been a continuous issue, and we know other people and tourists we talk to that this is not a good thing. It's like like in the said rest area, there's usually a point where there's a bunch of toilet paper or whatever underground because people have to go, and there's really no place presented, not even a porta potty.
Yeah, I've heard this issue before, and we've all been there, especially on long road trips. And then when there is a bathroom, you might be restricted unless you're a customer, maybe, or unless you're staying there, or just the frequency of them. You're absolutely right. I've done long road trips and experienced the same thing, and I've had the same anecdotally said to me while crossing 3 months. So was it any worse in some places than others, or it just depends on how much of a populated area you're in? And the more rural you get, the harder it is.
Well, BC has the best ones.
Okay.
And they have more of them. Alberta's okay. Regina,
and are these, like in BC, are they just, established public, are they potties or porta potties, or are they actually, established, say, facilities in a tourism chalet, or just randomly along the highway?
Yeah, randomly along the highway. Like one of the nice ones is out of Port, out of Hope. They have hundreds of cars coming in there. People can sleep in their cars, whatever. And there's washrooms that have sinks and that, and sometimes even a food truck. But I mean, that's on the I side. But then again, we've come across just porta potties, and it depends. The further out you go, one of the nice surprises was in Quebec before we got to Baie-Comeau.
Mm-hmm.
There was flashing lights, washrooms. It was at night. Businesses were closed, but the washrooms were open.
Well, they can appreciate the need, right? Clearly.
Yes, they could. So we were really pleased with them. But then, we're driving down from Goose Bay, and it says rest area, and the wife is looking happy. There's going to be a washroom, and unfortunately not.
Wow, even a coming rest, so you can see the sign. It says rest area coming up. It might even show you the fork and the knife and the restaurant image, but there might not be a bathroom.
Yeah. So anyway, so I thought I'd just call in. Yep. I know it's the end of the season, and it's a crappy topic, but
no pun
one
intended.
that needs to be taken care of, because here on the Northern Peninsula too, because if we go down to Corner Brook or Deer Lake or whatever, it's like like you say, there's a lot of places where there's litter of paper and things, and
rather than have people just randomly going wherever they have to, it's not an ideal situation. So it's definitely an issue, and needs to be reminded that it's something that, governments could certainly take a closer look at. It's not just an issue in this province, of course, across the country for randomness, but you just hope that you're not too long in between stops, I guess. I mean, you have to plan it out. I mean, I do. I actually look right at it, and if it's unfamiliar, I'll do a bit of digging to make sure where it is. But we can always be caught off guard, and sometimes you got to go when you least expect it. So, sorry, I think I lost. Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Yeah, a simple solution would be put up porta potties and send a sewage truck driver down once a week or whatever. It doesn't have to be difficult to solve. We can take care of people now, and if we want to be known for our hospitality, we have to be known for including everything and thinking of people's needs. So,
absolutely. I agree, Cecil. And, it's one of those things that, staff could look at and say, here's a long stretch without anything. Why not put one there? And as you said, just regular maintenance of it. It's good thinking, and it's in the, a little bit more into the detail, but these days you just see them looking at more of the broad picture, and these kind of, needs need to be mentioned every now and then to keep them on the front burner, So I appreciate the call, Cecil. Thanks a lot for bringing it to our attention again.
Yes, thank you. You have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks again.
Okay.
Oh, nice to be able to take a cross-country drive right now. I tell you, I leave today this afternoon. I'd be all over it. I used to love driving, but boy, I tell you, these days on the roads, it is white knuckle all around. Let's take that break, Beth. We'll come back. Let's see. Josh is there, and Alvin as well on Hydro. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 4. And Josh Smee with Food First NL. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you doing?
Great, sir. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
So food security, nothing going on there. I just, in this day and age and prices and that sort of thing, how are things? To ask a loaded question.
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? Things are hard. Things are hard out there. I just a couple of days ago, just yesterday, in fact, sat down at a panel discussion about this with a bunch of folks in St. John's, folks from our shop and Bridges to Hope, Food Producers Forum, Single Parent Association. And I mean, I think all of us, we all get at this in different ways, but we all see what's going on. So right now, just about a quarter of people in this province are food insecure, which is a wild number when you think about it. It's 1 in 4 people. That number was, much, much lower not long ago, right? It has almost, in 2011-12, it was 14% and went up to 30%. By last year. It's dipped a bit, which is good. We're hoping to see that it not being just a blip in the data, but being something real, because it has gone down a bit from last year to this one. But it's still really crisis level stuff, right? And I think we're all feeling that. Like, we all know people who are struggling to access food in one way or another, right? It's not something that's restricted to people who are, maybe you would expect. There's folks who are 2 working parents in a family, and the family's really struggling. There are folks who are on income support, folks older, younger, all kinds, which is a real shame.
It's tight across the board. I mean, even when I thought of food security and everything and prices of that, and you see people changing. Like, there's a gentleman charged on the West Coast, an employee of a grocery store, changing prices to make them cheaper for his customers, and he got wrapped for it by a judge. So, people will go out of their way to help people because they just see the desperation of the looks on people's faces in grocery stores these days, let alone.
For sure, yeah. A big part of this is driven by, we've seen food prices, obviously, we're all feeling that, have risen so much in the last few years. That's really putting the strain on people. The other big thing that's happening, if you ask anybody who, when we do community consultations, is housing, right? That's the big trade-off people are making, is that housing has gotten also to be a bit of a crisis. It's gotten so expensive, and when people need to pull their budget to afford a more expensive place to live because rents are going up, one of the places that people have to pull from is food, right?
Yep.
It's always the most flexible thing, unfortunately, in people's household budgets compared with rent and light. And so when we see those other prices going up, it squeezes people's food security in the worst way.
And then you put on top of that the back to school, and every dollar is pinched, and we're doing our best here at VOCM. You know, we've had the Block the Bus, of course, and all those other great events that we're involved with, but every little bit helps. What for you, and we've had panel discussions on food insecurity before, and we know the issues, and we know that it exists, but what are the different, levers that we can pull these days? And what for you came out of this panel discussion that maybe gave you, God forbid me I say this, but food for thought?
Yeah, once the food puns start, they don't stop.
I'm sorry about that. I'm going to.
It's all right. It's all right. Stuff for the rest of my office mates for the rest of the day now. So there were a few things I think that came up, and one thing I think that's important for people to know who are listening is that the province right now, the provincial government, is in the midst of developing a new poverty reduction and prevention strategy. And that sounds, like a mouthful. And Minister Evans was just on talking about it as well. And sometimes people just kind of groan when they hear about strategies like this. But I actually don't think you should. Newfoundland and Labrador, we are known across this country for the last poverty reduction strategy, the one that was on the go in kind of the early 2010s, because we are the only province that has ever successfully reduced food insecurity during that time, right? Like, we are the proof that other places use for the fact that if you go at this with a strong strategy, with good targets, good measurement, that you can get something done. So I think the ask here and what we need to see is both for people to feed into that strategy. So the consultations period closes on Monday. So get on there, get online, tell government what you think. But also, and this came up really strongly at this panel, it's really up to all of us, so organizations like mine, but also to individual citizens, to stay on government after the consultations close. Because what really sets apart a plan that a real plan and a paper plan is, what does the accountability look like? Are there targets set in there? Do they have to report back on them?
Sure.
So when Prince Edward Island did a poverty reduction strategy a few years ago, they actually passed a law called the Poverty Reduction Strategy Act. And so that means that they have to report back to their legislature. They can't, they can't shuffle it under the rug when they don't make progress. And I think that kind of thing is going to be really important. That's going to be one of our asks, is that this gets put into law so we take it seriously. And I think if that happens, government does have a lot of levers here, right? Most of the problem is that people just don't have enough money to buy the food that they need. And government has the power to change that. They can raise income support rates. They can raise the minimum wage. They can work with the feds. This is something that's it's mostly a government level problem to solve. Food charities can take the edge off, and they're super important. But just like you're not going to solve homelessness with an emergency shelter, you're not going to solve food insecurity with a food bank, right? You have to get at it at a higher level, and that is where this strategy stuff comes in. So I think there's reason to hope. This is, the government said they want the lowest poverty rate in Canada. And that would put us in a much better place from a food insecurity perspective. We also know that the feds just launched a big new 10-year food security strategy, and there's going to be a lot of money and resources flowing to do better work in the food space over the next while. So if those two things line up right, we might get somewhere.
Yeah, the food banks ultimately, in a perfect world, I say, food banks should be the last resort, of course, and try to avoid that at all costs and not be reliant. That shouldn't be the fallback and the reliance, of course. But and we know the minister party has said repeatedly that there will be affordability measures in the fall. That's all good, but I mean, there are people with affordability issues right now. So
sure.
I don't know what you're hoping for from those affordability measures, whether or not it's, obviously they're keeping the hold on the gas tax. So I think the Premier's already committed to that. But what else is coming? I don't know. I don't know how much it rests on their success with the MOU. I doubt they're putting their eggs in that basket, because we won't see the results of that for some time. Even the break on electricity bills, wouldn't come until the definitive agreements are signed. So in the short term, I guess people are waiting to see what the government comes up with in the fall for affordability measures. Have you got any insight on that? level?
No insight on what's going to happen, but I know what we would like to see happen, and I think this is true for us and for lots of our colleague organizations. I think a good commitment to make that would just be a good starting point is to do something that we used to do, which is tie income support rates to inflation, right? Because right now, what happens every year is inflation goes up, but your income support check, if you're getting income support, doesn't, right? So you're losing money every year. During the time when we had a really successful poverty reduction strategy years ago, that was different. It was tied to inflation, and we tie minimum wage to inflation for that reason, just so that people don't lose ground every year. So I think that would be a good first move, right? At least tie government support programs to inflation so that they're staying constant, just holding the line while this poverty reduction strategy rolls out, because it's a 10-year plan. There's going to be lots that takes time.
Yes.
But, I think that's at least stopping us from backsliding more. That would be a good first step and a really good sign the government was really serious about this.
Yep, and nothing that seems out of the realm of possibility or ridiculous and pie in the sky stuff. No, again, no pun intended.
No, that's basic stuff, right? Obviously there's a big conversation here, right? Because some of these things are big measures that'll cost lots of money, right? And we have to have conversation as a society, community, whether we want to do them. But this one, I think that's just the kind of the entry point, I would hope, to trying to solve this problem more seriously, right?
Josh, I appreciate the call. We just, as I said, with everything and all these important topics, it's important just to talk about them and keep the discussions going. We can't forget, we got these big issues. People talking tariffs and hydro and Churchill Falls, food and security. Without that, we're nothing. So thanks for all your work, and thanks for the call today, and I hope you have a great weekend.
You too, Ryan. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Josh Smee with Food First NL. Little past the break. Let's take it. Callers, 2-3 callers there, just waiting for us to pick them up after the break, and maybe room for you. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Joyce, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you today?
Very well. I think you have a bit of an update. We spoke about the medic alert bracelet yesterday, I think.
Yes, and I have the address, and I have where they're located now.
Okay.
It's Medic Alert, all one word, Foundation Canada, is located in Toronto. I have the address, I have the phone number, I have the fax number. Would you need any of that?
No, I thought that was what I forwarded to you yesterday. I'm pretty sure, because I was looking at that while we were talking. Oh, I thought you had you'd made contact with them and you made some progress. So you just
No. Are you kidding? My pharmacy is doing all this and not getting anywhere. And the Aboriginal people, they're not getting anywhere with it. So
really?
I don't know what's going on. I've been approved months ago, and it's been about 5 months or more. So it's ridiculous.
And what does your pharmacy tell you about it again?
Well, they've been trying to get in touch with them and they talked to them, and the Kuala Lumpur approved the bracelet, and they're getting nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
Is there any way, have they mentioned to you? I mean, is there anything that stops you from contacting them directly?
No, not really.
Have you tried? Just give them a shout and say, hey, this is what's going on. And they may not be able, I don't know, if they have a connection with the pharmacy, that's a privacy thing. They may or may not.
Well, I know they have something going on with the Kuala Lumpur. I think that's who they deal with all the time. So that's it. And they're not getting anywhere, so I don't know.
Are you talking about the Alapu First Nation?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So it's through the organization then, is it?
Yeah.
Through the Alapu.
But it's been approved. Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. So they've been told you it's been approved. You just don't know where it is in the chain.
And listen, they haven't sent it out. It's obvious they haven't sent it out.
Well, it wouldn't have taken that long, as fast as the mail can be sometimes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I mean, from what I heard, there's more people in the same boat I'm in, so it's not good.
So the pharmacy can't tell you what's going on with it, just that they've made the request or put in the order.
Well, yeah, and they've been trying to get somewhere with it, and they're getting nowhere with it. I just talked to her just then, and she said she'll call the Kuala Lumpur again next week and see if they're getting anywhere with it, because they close early, I think on Friday. So.
Okay, so it's through the pharmacy, and then the pharmacy goes through the Halapu First Nation.
Yes. yes.
Okay, so maybe not even be the pharmacy you should be talking to in that case. Obviously, you need to talk to somebody who's been in touch with Medical Alert Foundation. Again, I don't know. I would still call them just to see what they say. You know, maybe.
See, I picked out the bracelet I wanted, and it was ordered through them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had to talk to them, right?
Oh, yeah. I wonder, though, you could always double up and just call the number that you have. Yeah.
You know what? It's a good idea. I'll try it, but I doubt I'll get anywhere. It would be great if I did.
Right. You don't know until you try, like they say. And who knows? They could say, yeah, we don't. It's been sent, and then you're probably looking into whichever courier, or whether it's Canada Post or a delivery service, or.
No, it would come in my mailbox if I had it, right?
Yeah, but somebody would have to deliver it, right?
Yes.
So it could be with the delivery. Who knows? I mean, God knows. We've had stuff get lost in the mail before.
Listen, had parcels go missing and put in somebody else's box, and of course, whoever got it kept it, which I would never do, because I've had parcels come in my box, didn't belong to me, and I wouldn't send it back. I'd make sure that if it fit in the slot in the mail, I'd write something on it and tell them it came in my box, so it wouldn't have to go back and then come all the way back again to the person who originally owned it, right?
God, absolutely. Go through all that again.
Yeah, I would never do that. No, one lady actually, I managed to find out who she was, and she came up and she got her parcel from me, because I thought, I'm not sending it back because they'll have to wait forever. So, you know.
Is that a common thing around there, getting the wrong parcels, or just getting in the wrong box, or
listen,
porch
I'm
pirates?
sure it happens everywhere, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it can, once, I guess, no, that's true. I mean, every now and then I've gotten my neighbor's mail by accident, you know, one number off or two houses off or something.
You know what? There's people that are nosy and they can't help themselves.
Oh, boy, ain't that the truth.
I'm not like that.
No.
I would never do that. I try to help people, not hurt them.
You sound like you're much more a helpful person than a nosy person to me, that's for sure.
Listen, I try to help. Anybody needs help, I help them. There was a man years ago at Walmart, and I was with them at that time, the pharmacy, and he was getting medication. And she offered him one lot of pills, and he said, I can't afford that. And anyway, he said, you'll have to take it back. And there was a big line up there at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
And I said, excuse me. I said, what are those pills for? I said to the pharmacist that was giving it to him. And she said, it's for pain. I said, well, you know what? You give it to him. I will pay for it. And the gentleman, he was an older gentleman, he said, you don't have to do that. I said, I don't mind. I try to do a good deed for a person every day if I can, and I do. I help people if I can. And anyway, I paid for it. She said, you don't know how much it costs? I said, I didn't have a lot of money then, and I said, I don't care what it costs. I said, I'll pay for it, you know, to help him out. I mean, if you're in pain, I'm sure he needs his medication.
It's just an instinct for people like yourself, right? It's natural. I mean, it's just a human reaction. You're standing there, guy's in pain, can't afford it. God, yeah. I mean, you know, thank goodness for people like yourself.
Line and nobody stepped up, not one of them. And when I got to the pharmacist and I got my medication, she said, that was so beautiful. She said, for you to do that for that gentleman. And I said, I try to help everybody if I can, right?
Well,
I mean, I've been at Sobeys, there was an older man going around in a wheelchair, and he's looking at the stuff, and he's not buying anything. And I said, hi, and I said, do you need anything? And he said, well, I'm just looking at the prices. I said, you know what? Would you like to have $20? He said, where am I going to get that to? I said, I'm going to give it to you. It's like he couldn't believe it, hey? I opened my wallet and I give him $20. He followed me around the store constantly till I left. God love him. Yeah, but, yeah, I feel for people. Listen, there's people out there starving. They are. And I feel for them. And some of them are stealing for the sake of it, but there's people out there stealing because their families are hungry and they're hungry. And I get it. You know, not everybody got money, right? And years ago, I mean, I'm 79. Years ago, I mean, there was really hard times, and the kids today, the younger ones, they don't know what hard times are because they had it all in their lap, right? You know.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, you need to go through the roughest times to understand and appreciate when you do have something, you know. Absolutely. And if we're taught those morals at a young age from our parents and family, the value of appreciation, you know.
And when we were kids, I mean, we were out playing constantly. We'd be up on the hill picking blueberries, squash berries, hazelnuts, you name it. And pear trees. There was pear trees, big pears on them, and we just loved it. The outdoors. I mean, we lived outside. We did.
Crabapple trees for me. It was a simpler time, Joyce. It was a simpler time, wasn't it?
Oh, my God, yes. And it was, you know what, I wish we could go back that way, in a way. Because it'd be better for the people, because the world is just, everything is gone. It's just, Canada has gone down a rabbit hole. We'll never get out of it. Thanks to Trudeau and... anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a rabbit hole indeed. Joyce, look, all I want to say is I got to get off track. But however, I hope the goodness that you've shown others comes back at you tenfold, and I hope you get this medical alert bracelet solved. And if you don't, we're going to get on it big time next week. There's got to be somebody who has an answer, either between the Pharmacist, the Halapu Nation, or the Medical Alert Foundation, one way or the other. If you don't get a resolution in the short term, if you can't, if the office is closed, I understand. But at least some communication and some try to track down. It can't be the most difficult thing in the world. If you don't, let me know and we'll get to it.
Yeah, but do you know karma is a wonderful thing? If you do a good deed, it makes you feel so good, and it comes back to you. It always does. You get good luck. You really do.
Firm believer in... Yep.
So it's... Yeah.
Yep, firm believer in that.
Listen, my love, you have a lovely day, and thank you.
You as well. I hope you're able to enjoy your weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Take care,
Bye.
Joyce. Thanks. Bye. All right. That kind of goodness, boy, I'll tell you, I wish it was contagious. And sometimes it is. Let's take our last break in the morning. Come back with Alvin Hewlett. A nice little chat about hydro and the MOU to finish off the week. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. Right to line number one. Alvin Hewlett, you're on the air.
Good morning. How's the young skipper?
Now you're covering both.
I figured to meet you halfway on that one.
You did. Kill two birds right there. The young skipper is good. Yeah. Looking forward to the weekend, I got to be honest.
Yeah, I was listening to your program there, the minister from Labrador, with all the responsibilities for Labrador, and the guy who represents the Lab City Wabush area. And
yeah, Joe Power.
I put out a press release or a statement there last night, basically saying that after I've been cogitating on this now for a year or more since the first MOU came on the go, and people have taken public positions on the New Deal that we just did with Quebec and the federal government and so on. Mm-hmm. So I basically made a judgment call that I'm in favor of the New Deal, and I said last night in an article that, if I were a member of the House of Assembly right now, which I'm not, of course, I would probably vote in favor of the resolution supporting the Accord myself.
What would be the main basis for that?
My main basis is practical. See, my former boss, Brian Peckford, a former party leader with the PCs, Ches Crosby, a former colleague of mine who worked for us in the Premier's office, Des Sullivan. Most of these people have taken very strong stands against. And to some extent, it has to do with the economics of it, the amount of power we get, and how much money we get, and so on and so forth. And those are all valid considerations, and in themselves could be a deal breaker. But the other factor is the things that the two Labrador people were talking about on your radio this morning, and that's that if we don't do something in the next few years, Labrador is just going to grind to a halt. We've got all these weird minerals up there that half the world seems to want, but we don't have enough electricity to dig them up, or to build a new military base over in Goose Bay. I mean, Labrador is just flat, busted, broke when it comes to usable electricity.
It is the conundrum, isn't it?
There's a practical factor.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's a practical factor you got to put in here. If you decide to wait to 2042, Labrador stagnates for 15 years. And I don't think that's a viable option either. So, and because, Quebec is 10 million people and we got 500,000, our leverage with regard to sort of pushing our weight around in this country is somewhat limited, put mildly. So, I considered all factors, and, I sent a note to Brian Peckford, my former boss there last night, and his response, I said, I've decided that my belly button tells me to go with this. And he came back at me and said, my belly button says the opposite. Well, Brian and I have disagreed on things over the years, and I guess this is another one. And with regard to Brother Sullivan and Brother Tress Crosby, I respect their intelligence and their point of view and all that sort of thing, but, I just came down differently on this for purely practical political reasons, because I've spent my entire life in the political arena, and if nothing else, you've got to be practical there, because you've got to govern the people. You're just not governing ideas.
Yeah, I just feel like, ultimately the principle here is not to be rushed into something just because of any timelines. And we've talked about, why are we rushing? Why are we rushing? Well, we know the only reason we would is for the reasons you just said, is for the need is massive in Labrador if we want to get anywhere near these projects that we're talking about. As you said, the critical minerals, everyone in the world is eyeing it. The Labrador Trough is rich. And so, you have this dichotomy where, we feel like we're being, it just feels like we're being rushed and we're not in control of it. I'm just uncomfortable. I just have this.
Well, just think, Brian, Brian, if you're a Labradorian there, say, in Churchill Falls, I guess they got enough juice because they're tied onto the plant. But 15 feet underground are producing 5 megawatts of power.
Yes.
And yet in Lab City, they don't have enough power to open an ice cream shop. Yeah. So I can imagine how frustrated they are with it. Yep. And the other thing that the critics keep saying, the people that I mentioned earlier, wait till 2041, I think they vastly overestimate what we can do with 5,000 megawatts of power in 2041 when 90% of it is already solidly committed to the Quebec or a North American grid. If we pull the plug, there'll be hell to pay. If we jack the price through the roof, there'll be hell to pay. So the options come 2041 are not as simple as people make out, number one. And number two, if we wait then, Labrador just sits idle in the water until something different happens.
Yeah, and everyone knows that. They know the pressure's on us and the other players. And we know the pressure's on them and what they're facing. I just wonder, are we... are you okay with, say, this idea of, a 50-year term? And we can argue about the numbers, and everybody can interpret them differently. But to have that safety valve in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking.
Well, I agree with you. 50 years sounds like a lot of time. Now, mind you, the previous deal we signed was in the Smallwood era was for 65 years, at fixed rates. At least there's some variation in the rates there. And like I said in the article I put out last night, whether we're getting 5 or 6 or 10 cents extra a kilowatt hour, to me, all of that is massive compared to the fact that right now, and this will continue on to 2041, we're getting 2/3 of 1 cent per kilowatt hour. It's not enough to boil a kettle of water with. It's too extreme that way, and other people are saying, if we do this deal, it's the extreme of recklessness. I don't think so. I think we're in a difficult position, and time is working against us. Geography works against us. But the one thing that's working for us in this particular deal is the federal government wants to get something going too, and they've come to this party with a barrel of money.
Yep. Yeah, and look, we can talk next week if you like about Gull Island and whether or not, I know the 2% for eliminating the 2% escalator would, I think the Premier said, reduce it from about a $30 billion debt on Gull Island down to about $7 or $8 billion, but that still leaves us with an $8 billion bill around our neck, on a mortgage. So there's stuff to be discussed.
And Gull Island, Gull Island, to be fair, is down the road a bit, but. The 50-year business, if we actually do this thing, assuming this deal survives the House of Assembly election, which appears to be going better for us these days, then we have to move ahead and get things So otherwise, we just sit and wait. And what we're waiting for, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
2041's a long way off. And I think people vastly overestimate our bargaining power at that particular time. I could be wrong.
Well, maybe we're just waiting for
Brian Peckford told me his belly button says the deal's wrong. My belly button says it's right.
I think
probably neither one of us will live long enough to find out.
Yep. I think we're all just waiting for a really good explanation and a good comparison and a good vetting of all the details in the House of Assembly, if not somewhere else. So we wait with great...
Well, I hope that the House thing is enlightening. I do hope every member gets the chance to ask a question and then pass on the concerns of their constituents.
Alvin, I always appreciate the conversation. Thanks, Short. It was a bit short here today, but we can continue at any time. Thanks again.
Oh, no problem, young fella.
All the best. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Okay, take care. Yeah, not a skipper that time. Awesome. Although I'm certainly getting there. Thanks, everyone. Great week on Open Line here. Thank you, Beth. Guess off to the news. Have a great weekend, everyone. Drive safely, arrive alive. VOCM cares.